Hello and welcome to The Real Hernando, presented to you by Wesley Meadows Retirement Community and produced by SRP Studios Podcasting. This podcast spotlights Hernando, Mississippi's businesses, organizations, and community leaders. You will learn more about what each business or organization provides and get to know the person behind it all. Please follow us at therealhernando.com for all channels and social media platforms. Now, a word from our sponsor.
Each day at Wesley Meadows is a new opportunity to serve older adults and reimagine retirement living. It is the heart of their mission that inspires their team to provide the kind of fun atmosphere and care the residents would want for themselves. Experience the warm spirit and faith-based difference of Wesley Meadows. Call 662-429-2070 and schedule your visit today.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Derek, and today we are spotlighting Stars in Motion. Stars in Motion, founded in 1997, strives to provide superior dance education, cutting-edge fitness opportunities, and the most current choreography. Their highly trained instructors continue to learn through masterclasses, teaching, conferences, and professional development. Stars in Motion is a fun and safe environment to learn and grow as a dancer, artist, athlete, and most importantly, a human being. Their priority is the student. They work hard to ensure that everyone receives individualized instruction with challenges suitable to their potential. Today with me is Jill Morris. Hey, Jill, how are you?
Hey, doing good.
You are the director, correct?
I am.
Okay, very cool. And owner, right?
Founder,
Founder,
janitor,
owner, CEO,
nurse.
COO, CFO. Welcome to the show,
the
Jill.
above.
Thanks for being
you.
here.
Thank you.
So, let's talk about Stars in Motion, everything it entails with that, but also let's get to know Jill Morris too,
Okay.
But before we break into your story, let's talk about Stars in Motion and start educating the community right out of the gate on what it is, what
Sure.
you do. So let's start from the beginning here. So what exactly do you guys offer and how does it work?
So currently, we offer classes in all kinds of movement. Our tagline is a place for joyful movement, and that really, I think, encompasses everything we do. Our purpose is to, you said a safe space, and that is something we really try to strive for. Safe is in physical safety, but emotional safety as well. The yoga classes that we teach, really all the classes we teach are kind of yoga also, because we're always emphasizing the breath, letting go of judgment, letting go of competition and those kind of things, so that people feel a little more open and free to be themselves and to explore their own potential without holding themselves back.
Yeah, and feeling vulnerable.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And when it comes to expressing ourselves, especially in front of other people, if there's other people in the class, or even just if it was just with just a student and instructor, there can be that feeling. And so it takes several classes sometimes for some people. Other people come in and there's, a childlike curiosity and they'll just go for it. And definitely with the children that we teach, they have way less inhibitions. And
of course.
So they'll go
and you
for
lose it as you age, right?
We really do.
It's like dancing in public. My girlfriend gets a slow dance.
Yes.
I'm not going to be out there dancing to Brick House. You're not going to see that.
I get it. I absolutely get it.
Yeah.
And that's something that we want to try to overcome. And by the way, we do offer date night dance lessons.
there you go.
When we have that next time, I'll make sure you know about it.
I'll bring my two left feet with me.
Bring them both. I pride myself on being really able to handle that. The Pilates classes that we teach really remind me, we're having a big event tonight that's a Pilates event. And so I've been really thinking about what the takeaway will be for the people who attend the event. And something you said about as an intro is education. And that's a big part of our purpose, is to educate people on ways in which the body can move, ways in which our own bodies can move safely, and the ways we need to be moving. There's a lot of emphasis in the communities that I follow, probably because I fall into this community, on aging and what we need to be doing. It's never too late, but it's also never too early to start thinking about aging. And so our purpose is to educate people so that they can institute these practices and these healthy habits in their daily life, not just, oh, it's time for class, I'm going to show up and do what the instructor tells me to do, but rather that we walk away having been educated enough that we could probably do a little bit of this stuff at home.
Yeah.
Or first thing in the morning when we wake up and we feel stiff. Well, what did I learn in yoga class last week? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I bet I could do that.
Yeah, and it's preemptive, right?
Yes.
I'm very old now, and now I'm starting from, down below.
Yeah.
But if you know ahead of time, I want to be a healthy 60-year-old,
right?
Then they can start doing this. But then if they can take it home too, those small goals every day,
absolutely,
4 days a week or whatever, long term,
right,
will help them.
We're looking at this from an idea of we want to be part of the community, so we want to be able to drive ourselves to the farmer's market and get out of the car without assistance, right?
Yeah.
Even if that's just like holding on to the car. We want to be able to move around freely, to carry our own watermelon, right? From the farmer's market to the car.
You want the biggest one.
You want to be able to get the biggest watermelon at the farmer's market and carry it back to your car all by yourself.
Yeah.
You want to be able to get in the floor and play with your grandkids at some point, or, be able to volunteer at the Humane Society or whatever it is that we want to do. It takes an ability, a physical ability, but then we also want to educate on nutrition, of course. Now, we don't offer nutrition education necessarily because that's not my wheelhouse.
Yeah. But
you're coming into a community of people who are also interested in wellness and whole wellness being healthy in all the areas, emotional, physical, mental, and also nutritionally. And so you're going to meet people who are trained in that, or people who have an interest in it and that can say, oh, well, I've been reading this article or this book. And also to meet people who say, oh, right, I've heard about that supplement. This person over here that I know in our class is already using that. Why don't you guys have a conversation about that? So you're
networking. You're
networking in a way that's going to benefit us personally. The other classes that we offer, I mentioned the date night dance lesson. So there's not a lot of places you can go and take a one-time class and have this experience with your partner where you're going to come in and learn a few little tricks and skills that you can throw out on the dance floor and that you would feel confident. And I try not to say like a class for dummies because we're not dummies, but it might be a 101 where we're learning just some basic things.
I would be the dummy in there.
You can call yourself that.
Yeah.
But it's just starting from scratch. And some of the other things we do, like the aerial arts, we started aerial arts in 2014 with just like a little basics at a time. I was still learning. We hired instructors that were already trained, and I learned from them, and then learning from classes that we would take when we would travel to LA, New York, places like that. And it only takes a little bit at a time before suddenly you're able to do certain things. But you have to start with a little bit. I have students will come in, especially if they're tweens, and they're like, oh, I saw this on YouTube. Watch me do this. I'm like, nope. Nope, we're not going to do that.
Do not do this at home.
We're not going to learn this at home. But if you can show me that you've mastered this skill and this skill and this skill, then we'll entertain. Or you can send me that YouTube link, and I'll decide if it's something that I feel is safe for us to do in our studio.
Yeah, or ready for.
Or something that we're ready for.
Yeah.
But it only takes a little bit. And the same with dance. So is it time for us to talk about like the history of Stars in Motion?
Sure, let's go.
Because that's where dance takes us.
Okay.
We started out with the performing arts. We were Stars in Motion, a performing arts studio. We offered instruction in piano, voice, theatrics, and all forms of dance. particularly, and actually specifically for children. We've taught from age 2 all the way up through high school, and I've had several students that I taught from preschool all the way through their high school graduation.
Wow.
And some of those came back and taught classes for us, became dance teachers. And we've seen students go to college on dance scholarships, to major in dance, and other things as well. Maybe dance got them their scholarship, and then they majored in, other areas. But we have former students that are now teaching in studios, directing dance companies, a studio owner, and it's a pleasure and joy to still be involved in that. I kind of feel like those are our grandkids, so to speak, of the studio. And so it's been fun to watch that legacy continue even outside of our doors and outside of Mississippi even.
So what made you then expand to other forms like yoga and aerial arts?
We started in 1997. And around 2000 or so, I was already studying yoga and practicing yoga just for my personal well-being. And I thought, our dancers could really benefit from this. And so I started offering a class on Saturday for our upper-level students that was held before their ballet class. We would do a 90-minute ballet class. And for the students that were coming to that class, I saw that they were really progressing in their ballet class. And I think that's because, I know it's because they were becoming more aware of their anatomy and the way in which they were able to move their body into a balanced position. They were lengthening and strengthening muscles that were specific to their skill.
Yoga is all about the core.
Very much so, because everything kind of extends from there. Mm-hmm. But also learning about actual muscles in the legs specifically that were holding our turnout positions and looking at where they insert and where they are able to engage and disengage. And it became kind of like a science experiment. And we joke a lot about being a science lab as much as we are a studio.
Yeah.
Because we use, goodness, I'm trying to remember if there is ever a class I've said, well, this is science. And we talk about Isaac Newton a lot in our classes. So anybody who's watching this that's ever been to one of our classes, they're going to be like, I heard her say that. But even from back then, we started that. And then we started from there, yoga goes beyond the physical. And it goes into learning about balance, not just in your body, but in your life. Mm-hmm. Using breath to help balance the stress cycle. Using forethought, pausing, learning to pause before we react or before we speak. And I think their parents probably started to see some difference. And I had several, specifically mothers, but also we service, we have classes for everybody. It's not just moms. But the moms asked, could we come to that class? So I asked the students first, how would y'all feel if your parents, and there were a couple that were like, they were like, I don't know about that. And so I said, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll open a class that's just for anybody, dancers. If you want to come, you can too, but your moms might be there.
It's like an open house.
Open class, yeah. And so that's how we got started teaching adults, so to speak. And from there, they were like, well, we would kind of like to take a ballet class. So we started an adult ballet bar. And then from there, it grew. And then in 2014, so we already had probably around 2004 and 5, we started those classes.
Yeah.
And we had a rate. You could just pay for that one class because everything else we were doing was tuition-based. You paid for a semester or for a whole year of traditional classes. And we would have 2 or 3 in a class, but it was enjoyable. I enjoyed it. And it was casual. When you have small classes, people get to know each other and they're like, oh, how was your trip to visit your family, or how'd the birthday party go?
You're building relationships.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Building relationships.
Which adds to the, creating humans, like you said, like dancers and a good human. And you're building it from the foundation with the yoga. It's like you make them a better dancer, right?
Right.
So there's that. But you're also learning how to deal with anxiety. We all suffer from it. I know
Every
I do.
person.
So now you're making them a better person to the point where kids are going home and parents are like, you're a lot nicer now.
Something's
What's
different.
going on?
Yeah.
What happened to my tyrant, you know?
Yeah. And they may still, show that. But yes,
they're
enough
kids,
that there was enough of a distance. That's so interesting that you say that, because there was enough of a difference that more than one parent reached out to me and said, I want in.
Yeah.
So
they saw the results.
they did.
Mm-hmm.
They really did. That's so, I think I'm just kind of realizing that as we're talking. Yeah. That's kind of cool.
And it's community.
It is community.
I mean, they're building relationships each and every week. It's like Cheers, the show.
Yes, yes.
Norm. Everyone knows Norm,
and
everyone knows your name. Yeah.
Yes.
And I've learned that from my experience of getting involved with the Chamber of Commerce and going to ribbon cuttings.
Yes.
And I've built great relationships, some of which that's the only time I see them. It's the only time we chat. It's just a thing where that's the chamber family.
Right.
And you see this usual suspects at each chamber. You meet some new people too, but there's always that core.
And then when you see them somewhere else, it's like, oh, you're in this family too.
Yeah.
And it is. And that community that we started there so many years ago is still the same community. Our goal, and when I say our, I mean the people that are in this community. So Stars in Motion is not just me. I came up with the name. But what Stars in Motion is that community. And the goal is for everyone to feel welcome. And in order to do that, it was important to recognize that not everybody's going to want to come to a yoga class. And so I started listening, what other things would people be interested in? And so we started, my daughter and I were in Los Angeles, and when we visit places, we always like to go take classes, whether it's a dance class or whatever.
Might get some new ideas.
Yeah. I've never been to a class where I didn't learn something, and it might even be something that I learned that's like, well, I didn't like that as a student. Let me remember that as a teacher, other people might not like that in the class. But that's very seldom. Most of the time I learned something very positive to bring back. And she suggested that we take an aerial silks class. I'm like, okay, cool. What is that? So we went to this class. It was hard to find. It was back in this warehouse. And it's almost like a speakeasy where you had to knock on the door. The door was it was just really kind of like intriguing and mysterious. And we get there and we're doing the warm-ups. And I was definitely, the mom in the class. Everybody else was, college student or young adult. And we're doing this warm-up. I'm like, oh, goodness, I hope I can keep up because the warm-up itself is kind of intense. And then she says, okay, let's do cartwheels. I'm like,
Cartwheels.
Okay, let's do cartwheels. I'm like, okay, take a deep breath. You can do this. And the instructor looks at me. She goes, and it doesn't matter what it looks like. And I'm like, I think that was kind of my takeaway of that class. Not that she looked at me to say it, but everybody else in the class could do them. And I can too. They just weren't as pretty. But I thought when she said that, it doesn't matter what they look like.
And it goes to the safe space you mentioned
earlier.
Safe
space. Immediately, it was a safe place.
Yeah. She wanted you to feel comfortable to look silly.
Yes.
And going back to the dance classes,
Yep.
I think I'm like most men, not much of dancers. So if my girlfriend's like, we're doing this class, I'm walking in nervous, embarrassed, vulnerable. But if the environment is right and you feel like no one's judging here.
Right.
Because all the other husbands and boyfriends are going through the same thing.
They may be thinking the same thing. And it's so funny how those few words matter. Words matter. And just her saying that to me, I busted out my cartwheels. Nobody saw they were doing their own cartwheels. So nobody was worried about mine except me.
Yeah.
And then from there, we went into the fabrics. And it's so interesting how, and I took this away from the class and now put this into our classes. It's important for everybody to feel successful. And the instructor was successful at that. For me, she knew we were beginners and saw probably from the cartwheel section what I was able to do. And so she offered me something in which I felt successful. So much so that we walked out of there and I was like, let's get on the website. I asked her, I said, if we wanted to purchase one of these, where would we go? She gave me a website that was not Amazon, because we purchase these kinds of equipment from reputable companies, vendors.
Not third party. Yeah.
There's no third party. And so I got on the website and ordered one for the studio, and partnered with that company in LA to help me rig it properly. I was going
to ask that. Now, this is when you're in South Haven.
This was in South Haven.
And not every ceiling will be able to support this.
Right.
So go back to who you worked with to engineer that for you.
So we found a company that actually does local installation for heavy lighting, like for concerts and stuff, for those speakers and lighting and stuff like that. And so they're the ones from the get-go that came in and helped us get everything rigged up. And they rigged our Hernando
truss
studio.
rods going up over the ceiling.
And as it so happens, and then when we found our space in Hernando, we knew what we were looking for. And so we were able to, that was part of what was required for us to be able to come in and say, will this support what we want to do?
And how many do you have now? As far as, I want to call them swings. I know that's not the right.
No, everybody does.
What is the term for?
So we offer aerial silks, which is the fabrics that hang from the ceiling with two legs down from there. We have 7 hanging of those.
Okay.
We hope that in 2025 we'll add 2 more.
Okay.
And then we're able to hang 18 hammocks. And the hammock is the U shape. And it looks like a swing, but we don't swing necessarily because we are trying to be stable in the fabric. And then we also have Lyra classes. And we rent some of those Lyras from our Lyra teacher, and some we own.
What are Lyras?
And it's the circle. It's a metal hoop, and it hangs also from the ceiling. And some all the ones we use in our class right now are on a single point, meaning that they are hanging in a space in which they will turn 360 degrees, which can be really fun or not if you don't want that.
Death-defying.
Some can be a little scary. It's a little nervous.
Yeah.
But we also have some that we can rig with a double point, and so that they don't swing at all.
I've been by your establishment going to Club 4 many years ago, Boanchibo, whatever.
Yeah.
It seems like the size of your space is deceiving when seeing your front store.
Yes.
It sounds like it's a big place in there.
It's not big. We've just figured out how to configure it.
Okay.
And so
you're fitting a lot of stuff in there.
We fit a lot of stuff in there.
And you need open floor space for the yoga and dance, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Everything hangs upward. We pull it up and try to be as tidy as possible with the Lyras. And then also we have the bungee dance. And so our bungees and the Lyras, we take down completely. So there's a lot of setup and breakdown from the classes. But we just sort of have a system now that makes it pretty easy. Now, in 2014, when we started this, we hung one silk. And it was just something that we did as conditioning. In our acrobatic classes, we would have it as one of the stations that you could wrap in to help condition for pull-ups, incline pull-ups, things like that. And also we could wrap in and add flexibility that way. We weren't really offering classes for it. Somehow, I honestly don't even remember right now, we became connected with a young lady who actually was living in Memphis at the time, but had a lot of connections to DeSoto County. And she said, I heard that you have this apparatus. I'm looking for a place to practice. And I'm like, okay, let's connect. And while you're here, could you teach me some things? And then it turned into she was teaching classes.
There you go.
And we ordered another silk.
Yeah.
We didn't order hammocks for quite some time. And then the hammocks were only at our Hernando studio. And so we had a little bit of both.
So you had both locations?
We did.
We still do?
No longer.
Yeah.
So we first started in 1997 in Hernando.
Oh, okay.
That was our very first studio right here on the square. And then a lot of people that I knew, because I'm from South Haven, a lot of people that I knew were like, hey, There's not really a studio in our specific area. We would love for you to do that. So we investigated and found a place. And that space reconfigured a bunch of times and grew and grew.
Did you drop the Hernando one?
And we
at that
eventually
point?
did drop Hernando. But for about 4 years, we had both. Then from there, we kept South Haven. That studio was in its place for 23 years at Getwell and Goodman area. In that same time, we had studios in Hernando and Tunica.
Wow.
And just wherever we saw there was a need, and it might have only been there for a little while. Maybe we only held on to that for the time in which we felt we were needed there.
Uh-huh.
And then that sort of grew into some other things that have happened later on. But in 2019, well, let's back up. Around 2016, 17, a lot of the dancers that I was teaching were beginning to graduate, and I was beginning to think about my future.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, maybe we want to scale back a little bit.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the aerial arts was really taking off. A lot of people, a lot more adults and young adults, older teens were looking for something to do, but not be in a recital and not take a constant class. So we started doing one-time dance classes.
Just one-offs.
Adult one-offs. Adult jazz. A class for ladies only where we did a heels class so that we could be, a little sassy. And then we started looking into doing birthday parties using.
That's right. That's on the list.
Using this format, the aerial silks. And that really took off. Oh my goodness. Everybody wanted to do an aerial yoga is what we call that.
Yeah.
Because yoga was a great way to ease from on the mat into using the hammock. A lot of the postures that people already knew about, people are somewhat familiar with what like a warrior pose looks like or whatever. That was an easy way to transition into the hammock. And then from there, we could explore some of the more exciting skills. Then I was able to see in the distance that we might scale back some of the dance. Also in this period of time, other people were already on the scene teaching this, doing the same thing I was doing.
Yeah, but it seems like the aerial side of things is very niche.
It was. Yes, it is.
Compared to the marketplace.
Yes.
Not many people were doing that.
Not many people were doing that.
Yeah.
And so I saw that there may have been a greater market and a greater need for that when other people were already doing a really good job at what I was doing already.
Yeah. And
so, that share of the market became decreasingly available as other people came on and were doing that and doing it well.
I mean, you want to stick out, right? If you're one of 20 dance, establishments, but one of 2 aerial.
Right.
You're going to stick out.
Right.
And the riches are in the niches, as they say. Not to sterilize this, but yeah, you want to stick out. How am I different with all the other competitors? Well, if you're something super unique and so different that you kind of don't have any, then you're on the top of the mountain and you're the place to go to at that point.
My main focus in making this decision was where's the need, which means in the same term, where's the market? Because if there was a need, then it would be filled and the market would be saturated again. So we try to go to where the need is. And to also offer, again, that safe space for people who want to try something different. And it gives us an out. If we didn't like it, maybe we bought a 5-class pass, we'll go to 5 classes. And we're not signed in. We're not locked in for, a whole school year.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give up the dance part, and I didn't believe that the community was ready for a short-term dance session. So we kept the dance sessions going as they were. The dance semester, traditional, you come here, you do a recital, you do the Nutcracker, that kind of thing. But the other side of it started to grow. In 2019, I had a young lady who was assisting me at the time who grew up at my studio, and I'm still very close with her family now. And she was aware that I was thinking about closing the South Haven studio and only having Hernando. This was in December. And we were teaching a Saturday morning class. And after classes, I said, it's time. And she said, I'll support you.
Yeah.
And so we both cried, I might cry right now just thinking about it, of all the.
Yeah, there's so many memories, right?
So many people.
It's a sentimental attachment, big time.
It was the hardest decision I'd ever made, I think, at the time. And before I changed my mind, I right away emailed the landlord, and he was so on top of things. He's so funny. The first time I ever met him, I walked they were building out the South Haven studio. So this was 98. I walked in. I drove by to see if I could peek in and see anything, and the lights were on, and there was a car there, a truck there. And I walked in, and there's this man painting. I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just coming to see." And he says, "Oh, are you Jill?" And I said, "Yeah, who are you?" He says, "I'm Trip Trisvin. I own this place. I built this place." And I'm like, I think it was a Sunday evening. The man was there. He owns this building, and he's painting, and that really stuck out to me. That if you want something done, you do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, he gave me the grand tour of this big empty space, and we chatted. From that point of seeing that first roll of paint going on to the day in May of 2020 when I closed the door, that's a lot of people that came through there. So that decision that we made in December turned out to be pretty prophetic.
Yeah. Jumping into COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had we write on the mirrors all the time, so easy to write there and keep notes. And we had written down all the weeks. And so we were doing the countdown of all the weeks. And I remember that last week of May looking, and it had caught my attention that it was on that mirror because we were selling the mirrors, as we were leaving, and that one was getting ready to come off the wall. And those hash marks had stopped at the first week of March. And it was this feeling of I can't explain it. It was this really odd feeling of, it was spiritual for sure, that God said to me in that moment, I already knew. I already planned for this.
Yeah.
And I already know what your future holds. And I was because it was stressful.
You could sit back and say to yourself, I made the right decision.
Yes.
It kind of validated it.
Yes.
Which is that's where things get tough because you're always questioning, second guessing. Did I make the right guess? Did I prematurely leave a path that was put in front of me because of fear or because of whatever?
Right.
You're always like, am I missing something because I decided to let this go? Was I supposed to go forward? And you're like, what do I do? But then when you pull and make a decision and then you get validation, it's a huge closure. You can kind of move on.
Oh, it was a beautiful closure. Yeah. It really was. And when I did lock the door for the last time, there were no tears.
Yeah.
They had probably already been cried, but I was so at peace with that. And of course, we know that 2020 looked really different. We did not have any more classes for that season, that school year. But we did start to introduce some small scale yoga classes. We started back with just coming back with yoga, and they were mostly restorative classes. Not a lot of moving around because people needed that. We as a society needed
everyone's just sitting down, and I know I gained a lot of weight because of COVID.
And
for sure.
And forgetting to breathe
Yeah.
We don't realize that that's something that really does happen, forgetting to use the breath.
And some people, COVID, even without being sick, was harder than others. Loss of job, loss of house,
Yes.
anxiety through the roof.
It was crazy. We did a lot of online classes.
Yeah.
The online teaching is really not my forte. I don't do well there. I'm a very social person, and I really like social connections. We did a lot of Zoom, and we were able to be social that way.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of just get-togethers where we would schedule a Zoom party, and everybody would have their own appetizer at their home. It was kind of silly, but
we all prefer in person,
mm-hmm.
But Zoom was the game changer,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone, because of COVID, even I always joke, even the 80-year-old in Central Iowa learned what Zoom is.
Yeah.
Where before, and Skype, I don't know what happened to you, Skype. You were first and you failed.
They missed the boat.
You missed the boat big time.
Yes.
And also that trickled into the podcast industry. We grew.
Yes.
COVID was, prosperous for us. It was fruitful because businesses used Zoom to communicate and realized they could leverage that and repurpose it and on and on and on. But it was there. It was a savior for sure. It was able to let a lot of families connect without while not allowed to go to Thanksgiving.
Oh, I know.
It was.
Yes.
It was Twilight Zone, COVID.
We did we had a recital. We was in the Hernando studio in July, the end of July. And I went out and bought clear shower curtains. And we were already a fan of using the rolling hanging racks. Mm-hmm. We use those for props on our stage all the time. So I put those on the racks, and we put 2 chairs and a
mm-hmm.
closure, and then 2 chairs and a closure. And we invited 6 students to come in from each class at a time. It took us 3 days to do it. Mm-hmm. We used a Friday evening, a Saturday, and a Sunday afternoon. And a lot of students didn't participate because, it's July. They were traveling or, for whatever reason, they didn't want to come. We asked everyone, of course, to be careful as they came in, lots of cleansing mm-hmm. and masking and all the things that we felt like we could do and still allow these children to present what they had worked for a whole school year. Mm. So there was an important component to the mental well-being of the students, and then to balance that with also being as safe as we possibly could be. And we told everybody they had a private box to come and see this show.
A private box.
Trying to make it as...
A private pew.
This is yours. This is all for you.
Again, it goes back to the safety and comfort.
Yeah.
You wanted, hey, we want to start bringing people back together, but don't worry, we're making it as safe as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was a lot of pressure mm-hmm. And a lot of negative feedback from that decision.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Mm. There were people who said, you shouldn't do it. And then there were others that said, thank you for doing it.
Right, yeah.
And so, but there was a decision that everybody had to make, and it was an option. Nobody was forced to. Mm-hmm. And so it was there for those who wanted. And when we did start back to classes, we were doing them small scale and every other day. Okay. And so for the rest of 2020, we did, that gave us what I felt like was a day to, we sanitized everything. To this day, we still use a special sanitizer. We call it potato juice. And it's half and half vodka and water. And so we still use that.
You're right next door to a liquor store.
And I was able to go right next door. Give me the cheap stuff. I need it by the gallon. I still do. Yeah. Even though they moved, I just walk down the sidewalk and go down and get it.
They moved, 100 feet?
Yeah. It's like, don't go too far. I still need you. And so we, in the 2020, 2021 school year was difficult for everybody. We did some online for people who wanted to do online, we did in the studio for those who wanted to do studio. And that's during 2020, I was able to really reflect and say, where are we headed? What are we going to do? If the studio survives this, what are we going to do? And I said, we're going to do whatever it is we want to do. Mm-hmm. Do you want to still do a whole year of dance teaching? Do you want to try to offer more classes for people who don't have either the time or the financial resources to do what you're doing? And I started talking to people that I knew in the community that knew other people who maybe couldn't do traditional dance classes or come to a yoga class. Or here's the thing. We live in DeSoto County, which is one of the most financially established, well-off, so to speak, counties in the state, and one of the poorest states in the nation.
Well, also one of the fastest growing in the nation.
Fastest growing. And it's very easy to not see the need. I've worked with the Community Foundation since 2011 or so, and I reached out to a lot of people that I knew that were with the foundation or worked closely with those organizations that they support. And that's how you find the need. The volunteer community that they have there is their whole tagline is connecting people with care with causes that matter, I believe I hope they don't get mad at me if I said that wrong. So I was able to find organizations that I could partner with and use my skill set and also still grow.
Yeah.
And that's something that we are still doing. In 2022, May of 2022, we held our last official dance recital as Stars in Motion. And in 2023, we started offering short-term sessions.
Like the one-off type of deals,
yes.
Right?
6 to 8 week sessions. Maybe there's a performance. Maybe it's just for fun. I also offer these sessions in partnership with Hernando Parks Department. We do a 6-week session for crawling babies up to age 2 and then from age 2 to 4. And we do it in 6-week sessions at the Gale Center. And it's all booked through the Parks Department.
Oh, cool.
And in 2017, 18, 19, I would never have been able to do that. My schedule was too tight or it just wasn't really on my radar, to be honest.
COVID it was like hitting the reset button for a lot of people.
Yes.
You had no choice to sit back and reflect.
So much reflection.
And then, okay, what's more important when things open back up?
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
There's room in our society to shift our energy, and to change our why.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
exactly.
You say,
the why.
Yeah.
What am I doing? What's my purpose?
What's my purpose?
Yeah.
Purpose changes. And so that's what we do now. We offer short-term sessions. We don't do a drop-in. So our classes are considered drop-in. That doesn't mean that you saw on the schedule, oh, there's a class at 6. Let me just show up at 6. You still have to book it in advance so we know you're coming.
Yeah.
But every Monday at 6 o'clock, we have Vinyasa Yoga. And if you say, I'm going to be there every Monday, awesome. We hope you will be, but you better book it first.
Book it first.
Yes, please book it first so we know you're coming. There's some preparation, in advance. And also for some of our classes, specifically the aerial arts classes, there's a limited number of people that we can actually service for the class. Yeah. So it's important to do that. And so technology is involved. Sometimes that can be frustrating. When we have a birthday party, well, I'm glad that you're going to invite all, 17 of little girls' classmates. We're glad they're going to be here, but their parent has to register their child and give permission for them to be here before we let them hang from our ceiling. It's just a rule. It's just something we have to do.
That might be a small liability issue.
Something that has to happen. Yeah. Our insurance company says, we want you to do that.
This isn't a park jungle gym.
Thank you. Exactly. Exactly. So there's some behind the scenes that can get frustrating, but I try my very best to do all I can. We've had people that come to our studio that it wasn't for them.
You're allowing them to take a sample.
Absolutely.
Come try it out.
Come try it out.
If you don't like it, hey, at least you tried it.
We can still be friends. Yeah.
Or someone can try it and be like, yeah, this is for me.
And that's the norm. Yeah. We see that more so than otherwise. We also offer enough variety that there's probably something that you would like.
Yeah.
And if you're like, well, I already pay a membership somewhere to do this, well, you know what? Maybe once a month you come to the jazz class that we have, or we do a yoga for healing class that we only offer once a month. Maybe you come to that. Maybe you only come 2 or 3 times a year when you see something that really interests you. You're still part of the community.
Yeah.
We still want you to be here.
Jill, I could talk to you for hours.
This is a lot. It's a lot.
No, you're perfect for a podcast. We need talkers, but unfortunately we have to roll. I should have done this in the front end. You're at 2631 McIngvale, right?
That's right.
Starsinmotion.com. The best way to contact you is starsinmotion@yahoo.com.
That's right.
All of this will be in the description too, so you
Excellent.
can come click these things. And then 662-349-6422.
That's right. If somebody comes to our studio and they don't open the confirmation email to see the information, we actually use our back door.
Okay.
So the front part of our parking area gets real crowded. We use the back side as our main entrance.
Yeah.
And it leaves the windows open for us to have all the beautiful natural light, and our plants love it.
So you got plants in there.
The plants are all happy.
That's adding oxygen to the room.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing this.
I loved it. This was really fun.
Pleasure meeting you too.
Yes, and you too.
I'm looking forward to pushing this out there for you. If you're already listening or watching this by now, thank you. Appreciate it. If you made it this far, congratulations.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for watching.
You are a trooper. Go to therealhernando.com to find, we're on Apple, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're all over the place.
All the things.
And also special thanks to Wesley Meadows and all of our wonderful sponsors to help fuel this mission. One last time, thank you, Jill, for doing this.
Thank you.
Y'all check her out. Go click those links and take a class.
Yes, take a class.
Take a sample. Go try it out. You never know how it'll work out for you. Be brave. That's right. So again, to those watching and listening, thank you and have a great day.